As you can see, we have some points over here. First off, better parenting. What students lack on that Friday that they missed, their parents should make it up. That enhances their teaching and communication skills with their child. New experiences. On the Furlough Fridays, since they don't have school, instead of just lounging around at home, take your child, or maybe the child can take it upon themselves to visit the Bishop Museum, that picture over there, or go to the Academy of Arts. Just basically get these cultural experiences that they may not get in school due to the budget cuts, not getting field trips. Secondly, a stronger family bond. At that picture over there, you see how important it is to have a strong family bond, and Furlough Fridays causes that because you have a free day to spend together, whereas the rest of the days you're working. Even on some weekends, you are working as well. Fourthly, your own well-being. As we all know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's important to have just some time for yourself, some time to relax, whether you want to do laundry, whether you want to, go shopping, or just have finally a day to sleep in. And lastly, a stronger community. Now, the Furlough Fridays affects everyone. It affects union workers, parents, students, and it brings the communities together, a diversity of people, because there's one common cause, and that's to stop Furlough Fridays. Which brings me to my next point about how the negative impacts of Furlough Fridays deeply outweigh the positive. And I'm going to begin that with discussing students. Increased anxiety. According to HawaiiMomsLikeMe.com, this is a blog where people in the community can share problems that's going on in their community and try to find solutions. It says that a Ni'u Valley Middle School principal noticed an increase in visiting counselors. That can be tied into Furlough Fridays because it's around the same time that it happens. Also, they have to worry about getting more education in less amount of time. Whereas they had 180 days to study the curriculum, they now only have 163. Now this is for 6 classes, not just one. And that doesn't even take into consideration of the absent days that they may have when they're sick, which further puts them behind. Also, to my next point about how students are affected negatively, decrease in grades. Not only in their regular classes, not only in their advanced placement classes, but more importantly, the Hawaii State Assessment, or better yet known, No Child Left Behind test. It's important for the schools to meet these requirements because that's how they get credited as a non-charter school. And that shows the standards are being met by the students. However, with such decreased time because of Furlough Fridays, students are having a hard time grasping each concept that the teacher is trying to get out. Next and last, effect of the students is the extracurricular activity. Sports, band, even community service clubs, they're all getting impacted because they can no longer have tournaments on Fridays due to Furlough Fridays. They have to put it on Wednesdays, where maybe there's a decrease in attendance. Also, bands, they can't have rehearsals on Fridays because of Furlough Fridays as well. It's just a decrease in school spirit, and that's not what school is about. It's about learning, but also getting experiences, and Furlough Friday takes that away. Which brings me to my next point with how parents are impacted as well. First of all, lower income. Now, they're not the ones that, or some parents are because they're state workers as well, but the parents that aren't state workers are still getting impacted by this with lower income because their child is in school. Let's say they can't get a babysitter, they don't have family members to watch their kid. That means that they have to take off of work, watch the child themselves, missing a full day of pay, and that does make a big difference in the paychecks. Also, related to students, parents also have anxiety. For the younger kids, they have to worry about who's going to watch my kid, what if my babysitter called out? They have to be constantly just making sacrifices for their work time. That's where their income comes from, but the child comes first. And secondly, for older students, parents worry, is my child getting fully prepared for college? Because high school isn't just about education and about spirit, but it's also trying to prepare your children for the next step, college. But since everyone's trying to focus about the curriculum, maybe they're not getting those extra advice from counselors and teachers because everyone's frazzled. And lastly, most importantly, Sione mentioned about the special needs children, that they're going to be impacted by this too. And parents of special needs, are extremely impacted. This is the Canute family. This boy over here, his name is Ashton. He's 10 years old and he suffers from autism. That requires him to have to take multiple forms of therapy at Kainalu Elementary. This is what his father has to say about Furlough Fridays. It's going to be a bit more of a financial challenge now that we're going to have to deal and pay an outside agency to give the care my son needs. Now, all regular students deserve care and attention just as much as anyone else, but in my opinion, special needs children are very more important because of the extra care and attention that they need. Next off, the state workers are impacted by this as well, especially teachers. Everyone's income is going down because of these decreased days. 17 days of no work makes a big difference, and that causes them to have to get part-time jobs. As I mentioned before, a teacher having to get a job at Gap because the budget cuts were just too severe. That was a real story. My brother works with her at Gap. Next, for the teachers, the condensed curriculum. I think this quote from a teacher at Kaiser High School can sum it up. Sachi Matsushita, a math teacher at Kaiser High School, says that, "I've been teaching at Kaiser for 15 years. I'm finding out that it's taking me twice as long to make sure that I'm effectively teaching the concepts that I need to the children." Now, if it's a teacher that's for 15 years and she is having a hard time making the curriculum taking twice as long, imagine the new teachers that are just there, that just started teaching. How is it for them? Because they have to meet the BOE standards, the Board of Education standards. All teachers are still responsible to make sure that the curriculum meets the standards of Hawaii content and performance standards. So they're making their curriculum all the while thinking of the students, having to think of the standards, having to think of how effectively they can deliver it to the students as well. And the teachers are also club advisors and coaches at schools as well, and they are getting impacted because of the accommodations that they have to make since they can't have events on Furlough Fridays. Next up, we have the general public. Economically, as I mentioned before, parents and state workers, they are having a decrease in their income. And let's face it, these are the consumers of our economy. So you make less, you spend less, and businesses suffer from that. Businesses don't make as much sales, and because they can't make their monthly quota, it leads to unemployment, them having to lay off workers because they no longer have any money to support each of their workers. So they have to fire some people. Also, closing consequences is probably the most important thing when it comes to the general public. DMVs, libraries, places that we go to every day, on Fridays it's being closed, and that's a severe problem. Kita Miyashiro, an IAEA Recreation Center gym attendant, he says this about Furlough Fridays. Because the recreation center is closed, it causes kids to get into more mischief because they no longer have a place where they can engage in fun and safe activities. Now they're just kind of doing whatever, maybe drinking, maybe vandalizing, because they no longer are in school and they no longer have their time occupied with things that could benefit them. Now that you've learned about some of the positives, you tell me, is the negative effects on students, parents, state workers, and the general public worth it to have these Furlough Fridays? I think not. All of us in this room haven't been impacted by Furlough Fridays. We've never had to miss a Friday of school because that was placed after we graduated. But I think all of us should just take a time out and put ourselves in the shoes of a 7-year-old that is going through this right now and ask yourselves, what would I do if my education was taken away from me? Thank you.